Joining us for a conversation today on control towers in the supply chain, Steve Banker, Vice President, Supply Chain Management, ARC Advisory Group. Steve, welcome.
Good morning, Russell.
Steve, there's supply chain visibility clearly is something that you can't overstate the importance of, but it's a great deal to be said about it. Let's talk about visibility.
Yeah, well, I think when you talk about supply chain visibility, people mean a lot of different things. For some people, all they mean is they put in a brand new enterprise resource planning system and it's all pulled together. There's one source of the truth. But the kind of visibility I think that is more interesting is supply chain control towers. We've got this Internet of Things revolution going on, and we've got powerful new analytics. We've got sensors all over the place. I think we can do new things at the control tower level.
Well, clearly control towers are getting a great deal of attention today. But for those who are not entirely familiar with the concept, let's walk them through that. What do we mean?
Well, and again, control towers itself it can also be broadly defined. So, but it's basically a place where you have visibility, where people can act upon that visibility. But the visibility is used in different ways. So the classic supply chain process is matching supply against demand. If there's surges in supply, you try and demand, you try and react to that. If there's problems on the supply side, you try and react to that as well. You try and balance that out. So for me, that's probably the primary definition of what a supply chain control tower is. But I've seen control towers for the purpose of knowing where your trucks are, making sure that there's not chemical spills, being able to react to those kinds of things. I've seen it from an asset performance point of view. I've seen it from a strictly logistics transportation point of view. So again, control towers is used in different ways by different people. But to me, the central process is matching demand and supply.
But you just mentioned transportation a couple of times in your response there. Is that generally the only area where the control tower is going to come into play, or are there other areas? And is it something that is going to be utilized only by one vertical or so?
Yeah, no, it's not. So as an example, at our conference, I've got 3 great panelists. And I've got Dow Chemical has put together a control tower for the purposes of environmental compliance. They want to be able to track their rail cars. They want to make sure if there's any incident, they're right on top of it. But they're going to expand from that and use that visibility in broader, more interesting ways. We've got Shell Oil, and they've got offshore platforms for oil. And they're using their control tower to get all this sensor information and make sure that the platform is working optimally and production is proceeding as it should proceed. And we've got AGCO, a huge manufacturer of tractors and farming machinery, with a very interesting implementation of a little company called Risk Methods, where they're getting unprecedented visibility on the supply side of potential disruptions.
So you've just mentioned now 2 or 3 different verticals and areas where this concept is being employed.
Yeah.
But let's talk now about how you actually build that control tower. What are the technological issues that are involved in doing that?
Well, first of all, if you talk to people that are building control towers, and it's more than transportation visibility. They will tell you you can't go to one supplier and build a control tower. You go to one supplier for a particular type of visibility, another supplier for another type of visibility, and you have to assemble these pieces, and it's not easy, and it's not quick, and it's not cheap. But technologically, what makes it more interesting is IoT means there's a lot more sensors out there, and we're using sensor data in new, interesting ways. And in-memory applications, in-memory databases are getting better and faster, so we can model things much more extensively and do much more interesting things with predictive analytics.
But let's return to that. You are suggesting to me that no one vendor, no one developer or marketer of this concept is able to supply all of the technology that is needed to have a comprehensive visibility if it's something beyond just transportation. Is that true?
I think that's absolutely true. That is what I am hearing from people that have either built them or are in the process of building them.
Let's talk about social cultural issues that you find in enterprises that are involved. Anytime anybody wants to, if you want to get the most out of your control tower solution, what are those issues that you undoubtedly are going to run into?
Yeah, and I think that's a very good question, Russell. It's one thing to have a control tower and to see that demand is out of whack, supply is out of whack, you're not going to get the products you want. There's something out there in the environment, but then you have to act upon it. And I think when you think about control towers, a good analogy would be a fire station. An alarm goes off and people slide down the pole and they jump onto their fire trucks and they do something about it. In a supply chain control tower, the problem and the solution to that problem aren't always going to be the same. And so you're going to have to pull ad hoc teams together. You're going to have a culture that you do something with that. And I'm not sure that everybody has a culture where they've got that fire station mentality. Like a lot of people have their regular jobs and they've got their head down and they're doing what they do every day. So to me, that's the biggest cultural challenge.
Steve, final question. Anyone who has not had personal experience with a control tower, after hearing this might say, well, what really is the difference between this concept and my simply relying upon a transportation management system, even if it's something that's operated by my 3PL? How is this really different?
Yeah, so that is one type of control tower. And transportation sort of gives you visibility. Typically, are my outbound shipments going to arrive at a customer site when they're supposed to? And customers care about that. But the most expansive control towers will really be matching supply and demand. And so you'll have signals upstream about surges in demands in particular parts of the country. A transportation control tower can't give you that. You'll have signals on the other side that a key tier 1 supplier has just gone bankrupt. Transportation can't give you that. So it's a bigger thing.
Much more comprehensive. Well, great explanation, and thank you for that. And thanks for meeting with us today, Steve.
Always a pleasure, Russell.
Steve Banker, ARC Advisory Group, and speaking with us today about supply chain control towers. Thank you for watching.